We are here with my friend Shane Lynch, who is a fellow graduate in the Indigenous Studies master's degree program. And welcome, Shane.
Hello.
We're going to be talking about some of your cool work that you're doing. We've been on panels and done a lot of different educational stuff together, so it's good in that respect. But for our listeners here, let's start at the base. Your educational journey's been a long time coming, right? You've kind of had a long history in the educational field. So Iowa, right? Is that where you started?
Yeah.
Okay.
I graduated from Jefferson Scranton High School, which is now Greene County High School in Iowa. And then I was recruited for football. So I went and played at a junior college and got hurt my first year. So just finished out there and went to Haskell for 2 years and then dropped out. 4 years, no AA or anything.
Right on.
Sat out for 10 years, came back, went another 4 years at Haskell and got my BA.
And then when you went to Haskell, you went back for the AIS degree, right? The bachelor's.
Yeah, I stayed for that because I got talked into it by my advisor.
Well, I mean, and it's crazy. Like, if you look at your work, it's super activist type AIS right up and down kind of stuff, you know. Okay, so that's kind of like where your baseline is, and then you got into KU, right? And so the work that you've been doing is, from what I know, is really artistic in nature, right? So how long have you been doing art?
I was actually I've been doing art since grade school because they noticed that I could draw at an early age, like in second grade, and they would allow me to go into the art room when I had free periods.
Oh, really?
All through grade school, all through high school.
So you've been developing that for forever.
Yeah, but it was all Western though. It wasn't any native influence or anything like that. They kept on, of course, wanting the token Indian to do that, and I never would.
Right.
So I would just do mainly. Well, you've seen my work. I mean, the earlier stuff when you were at my house, it was more like surrealistic and human bodies twisted and stuff like that. So
right on. Well, I guess we kind of jumped right ahead into that stuff. But so, who are your people, token Indian? If you're coming from that, who were those people?
Well, I mean, that's how I kind of was treated because I was the only native in school growing up.
And that was when you were in Iowa, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
But you come from
Arizona,
right?
Yeah, I would go visit my grandmother in the summer, things like that, and my mom was good at keeping that bond with home still. So I'm from the Gila River Indian community. I am Peeposh, Accomaw-Otham, Tana-Otham, Kumye, Kokapa, and so
got all those cultures kind of going at
Southwest.
once. So. And so your work has been a lot of art stuff, like we were talking about, but you've also kind of been practicing like these law theoreticals, right? With the tribunal.
Yeah, the Indigenous Justice Initiative.
Okay, so let's talk about that. How did that start getting developed? Because I know that's like Wildcat and Gable Rubidoux and all these different people who are doing
Andy
stuff.
Weber,
right?
According to Wildcat, I've heard two different Wildcat stories from him himself.
This is Dr. Dan Wildcat at Haskell for our listeners.
He first said it spawned from one of their talks that they would have in his office. I was around for some of them, but I really wasn't hanging out in there like Barb was and Lori Hasselman, Barb Wolfen. She just graduated with, and her dissertation is going to be, they're going to condense it for publication.
Jeez, yeah, I want to read that.
Yeah, and so her, Andy Weber was in there, I guess, and some others, and that's how they were talking about indigenizing tribal government.
Really?
And so then the conversation was brought into the class, and that's where Gabe and Andy and Chante all jumped on that. And then Gabe and Andy were the ones who stuck it out and actually formed a group.
Right.
And
Cindy was in there.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Cindy Farley and Jesse. I can't even remember his last name. Campanero.
Oh, Campanero. Yeah.
He was there also at the beginning. And we pretty much Alex
Rodriguez, right? Okay, yeah.
And we formed a year ago in the spring.
Was it that reason?
Or because it was our last or senior year.
Oh my God! I thought it was the year before that. This whole time.
No.
Man, so you guys have done a lot in just that short time frame.
Yeah, the first one we did an Indigenous tribunal about No DAPL, the pipeline.
Right.
So how we would see it as if they had to answer to Indigenous justice, and
right.
what would that be? And then now we moved on to forming principles, which I've been primarily working on. Big help with that was in the spring by David Wilkins and Purity, Cornell Purity. That guy is awesome.
Yeah.
They both came down and really helped out a lot. I mean, as far as gave us, we came up with, inspired by David Wilkins, a thing called matured rights.
Right.
As you mature, you need to protect.
Right.
And that's part of our responsibility as Indigenous people is, protect our environments.
So you guys were kind of fleshing out bigger concepts.
Yeah.
Through this kind of like homegrown movement,
Mm-hmm.
and that, I remember those meetings. They weren't super huge, but what you guys were talking about was like awesome. And I just kind of wanted to touch on that real quick because I think like the work you've done is like, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So I guess like we should kind of get into. I want to talk a little bit about your video game, or kind of like focus on your video game. We've been on, like we were mentioning, that we've been on some panels together, and at our most recent one, Digital Frontiers, you were presenting your video game on the origin story, right?
Yes.
So let's kind of flesh that out.
Okay.
What kind of work is that? What does that look like?
Well, I'm shooting for like an 8-bit or 16-bit graphic, looking over 3/4 overhead.
Okay.
Game, kind of like Legend of Zelda.
Okay, yeah.
Link to the Past.
Sure.
Or else like 8-bit Akai Warriors.
Right.
I decided to incorporate the bow because we primarily were that. Because in the creation stories, it isn't really clear on what type of warfare we were using against each other.
And this, whose creation stories are these?
This is the Autumn and human creation stories. I'll start with the Autumn one first because this is what primarily the game's based on. Because the human creation story is primarily animal based, but they do have two gods that mirror each other, and that's what I'm basing my thesis on, is comparing the two gods on how they have similar paths and how these stories actually are interwoven. And there is proof after that of the exchange of stories that has been documented. So I'm just kind of continuing it, because really we've become, even though we've still held on to our own cultures, we still are one people, the way I see it. So
and so the human and the Ta'ana Autumn, is that?
Oh yeah, Ta'ana Autumn. They are there's several groups of Autumn all around southwest and into south central Arizona. That are different Autumn, but they're all grouped in with the Ta'ana Autumn.
So you guys are like still the same language group and everything.
Yeah, we share our languages. We just have dialects. Basically, we share a language and creation story, all the same. The only difference is some of the, along with the human creation story has changed as they migrated down. The Autumn creation story is different too, in that the holy spots, they share holy spots, but there are some holy spots that are of course different.
Right.
Because there's also a story about CHA, one of the Earth Doctor, which is one of the main deities for creating humans. He didn't create the first people, but he created the second people.
Okay.
Because the first people were created by... Earth Doctor created the first people. Elder Brother, which was actually the younger brother, created the second round of people. The first round of people, there was a great flood, so they fled underneath the earth. And then the next creation, CHA created. Okay. And then those people turned on him, and so he died and went down and got the first people and brought them back up to conquer the Hohokam. And then that made the Pimas. Okay.
And so you're kind of like fleshing all this out in the video game, right?
Yeah.
Through the video game.
I have a copy of the Saxton creation story that was made in, I can't remember when it was. But it has a full creation story that had in Autumn, and and it's very close to the modern Autumn. So I'll have to try to figure out which is which and things like that. But I'm going to add that to the game because I may not be able to voice it over just yet.
Right.
But at least they'll be able to read it in original, or at least in Autumn and in English.
do you see the video game being kind of like, is that just for your master's, or do you plan on doing that, continue out through your doctorate? Or if you're doing you are doing a doctorate, right? Okay.
Yeah. Well, with this project, I'm going to continue it for sure, just to do it,
Right.
just to have it done. I think it's good experience in learning how to code and doing, just trying something new. Because I've always been a 2D artist or 3D artist, and then now I'm trying computer graphics, basically.
Right.
So,
Man, well, that is really, I don't know. It's a different form of media than a lot of natives are working in. We've seen these different, what is it, Thunderbird Strike and Never Alone, all these different other native video games. But I think this one is a little different because you're working in that space that's not a fictional narrative or something, or you wouldn't consider it like that. You wouldn't consider it your standard, just threw it down on a plot or anything like that. It's a little deeper than that. Do you think that that can be legitimately culturally connected to your people, through that video game thing? Is that how people are learning now? Is that how people are accessing things? Those are the conversations we're having, right?
yeah, I mean, well, it definitely is an influence, because everything around you is a propaganda trying to influence you some way or another. I mean, we need to take our narrative into our own hands.
Right.
And thanks to Haskell and the research I did there, I've read a lot of creation stories, and
Right.
A lot of them come from the stars, or we come from the earth, or we come from the water,
Right.
And those are all elements that are here,
Right.
and they all intermingle. I see, whenever I read a creation story, I see them intermingling together,
Right.
and so I think it's just that we all could intermingle like that with different kinds of games and concepts,